What is this? Tastes like garbage. If I eat this, I'll get sick. Megan laughed and pointed at the dish I had prepared. I had tasted it before serving, and it didn't seem off to me. It was all just Megan being difficult. Andy and I had spent 3 days preparing for this. We were so excited to hear that our eldest son and his wife were coming over. Looking back, Andy and I felt foolish for getting our hopes up. Megan's rude behavior and Benny just going along with whatever she said wore us down. We felt so distant from them. Continuing a relationship with Megan seemed impossible for us. Maybe we need to set clear boundaries with her. Before I could confront Megan, Andy reached out to the dish. My name is Katie, a housewife in her 70s. I live with Andy. We have a son, Benny. After graduating from a prestigious private university, he got a job at a major company and lived alone in Boston. 2 years ago, he told us he was getting married. The woman Benny introduced as his fiancée seemed sweet and polite. According to Benny, after the wedding, they planned to move closer to us and wanted to bond with us, especially Megan. We were okay with it, but wondered how Megan felt. When we asked Benny, he said,
Megan is excited. She wants to get closer to you guys.
So we welcomed their decision. About 2 months after their wedding, as promised, Benny and Megan moved near our house. We hoped to see more of Benny and get to know Megan better, but reality was harsher than we expected. Benny transferred from the company's headquarters to a branch in our town. He thought he could manage, but life wasn't as smooth. The problem was Megan's spending habits. Even when Benny earned well at the headquarters, Megan had a tendency to overspend. When Benny's salary decreased slightly after the transfer, Megan's spending didn't slow down, it escalated. No matter how much Benny earned, Megan spent most of it, leaving them struggling. Benny didn't care about his appearance and always lived a humble life. Benny was always out trying to earn more, and he hardly visited us. Megan didn't visit either, making their move seem pointless. Even though they lived nearby, we hardly saw them. Benny was always busy, and we hesitated to reach out to Megan directly. We felt helpless, knowing Benny was struggling. Even in this situation, Benny may be suffering and trying to somehow rebuild his life. Still, we tried to help by sending them $1,000 every month. We wished we could send more, but with Andy retired and us living on a pension, it was all we could manage. Every time we sent money, Benny would thank us, saying,
I really appreciate it.
His voice always sounded so wary, and it broke our hearts every time. We wanted to be there for Benny, to support him as his parents. So we decided to help him in any small way we could. On days off, when we had some free time, we'd take him shopping. We'd treat him to a nice meal. When Benny and Megan were out, we'd borrow the key to their house and do a bit of cleaning for them. The things we could do were limited, and we didn't think these gestures would alleviate Benny's pain much. But doing something felt better than doing nothing. 2 years passed, and Benny's situation remained tough. Seeing Benny like this, we decided to take action. Our plan was to invite Benny and Megan for a meal. We thought Megan might decline a regular dinner invitation, so we decided to prepare a feast to entice them. When I proposed this to Andy, he was worried because he's not good at cooking, but he was proactive, even going out to buy ingredients. To our surprise, the promise of a feast worked, and both Benny and Megan agreed to come. For 3 days and nights, Andy and I worked on preparing the meal. Benny and Megan arrived at our house in the afternoon. They seemed to relax, as if trying to shake off the stresses of daily life. Benny looked exhausted, so we offered him our bedroom to rest. As Benny went to the bedroom, Megan, who seemed oblivious to our cooking preparations, lounged on the sofa watching TV. Suddenly, she walked into the kitchen and blurted out, "Why are you guys trying so hard with all this?" Caught off guard by her abrupt question, before we could respond, she continued, "Honestly, what's the point? Is it fun for you? If you have this much free time, why not work a bit and earn some money? Life must be tough for retirees, right? Ha ha ha." She laughed mockingly. I stepped forward. "Isn't it rude to say such things when you're invited for a meal? Where are your in-laws? Some respect would be nice." Megan's face turned red. "Are you trying to harass me? Do you think your words don't hurt me?" I had no intention of harassing her. I just wanted her to show basic courtesy. But seeing her twist my words and get angry, I was at a loss for what to say. Megan, seemingly satisfied with her outburst, returned to the living room. Andy looked upset, but we still had dinner to prepare, so we tried to refocus. Then, from the hallway, we heard Megan shouting, "Why are you always like this? Can't you be on my side for once? I'm your wife." We rushed out to see what was happening. Megan was standing in front of the bedroom door, and Benny, who should have been resting, was there too. "Why won't you support me? Why are you siding with your parents?" Megan yelled, grabbing Benny's shirt. Realizing this was getting out of hand, we intervened. "Calm down, what's going on here?" Andy held Megan back while I asked Benny what had happened. Exhausted, Benny explained the situation. He had been resting in the bedroom, trying to catch up on sleep due to his demanding job, but he was jolted awake by the sound of a door being slammed. When he opened it, he found an enraged Megan. She rambled about being harassed and called me the worst. Benny was confused and overwhelmed. Megan, in her heightened state, misunderstood Benny's silence as him taking our side and began accusing him, asking if he was truly her husband. Benny, groggy from sleep, couldn't process the situation and felt helpless. Seeing Benny like this, Megan's anger only intensified. Benny seemed to be caught in the crossfire, looking even more drained. I confronted Megan. "It's not normal to wake up and yell at your tired husband. Do you realize how bizarre you're acting?" Megan, perhaps feeling cornered, muttered an insincere apology, but her eyes betrayed no remorse. Despite the tension, we managed to sit down for dinner. Ribeye steaks, marinated seafood from the local market. We laid out the best we could offer. Benny seemed to appreciate it, but Megan, looking at the spread, snidely remarked, "Just because you serve this doesn't mean I'll forgive the harassment." It was disheartening to hear after all our efforts. Benny tried to lighten the mood with various topics, but Megan shut down each attempt with cold remarks. I told her, "You need to change your attitude," but she blatantly ignored me. The TV wasn't on, so I'm sure my words got through to Megan. To be honest, I felt depressed when I realized that I had clearly been deliberately ignored. Feeling disheartened, Andy tried to console me. We managed to say grace together before the meal. But after tasting a dish, Megan exclaimed, "What's this disgusting garbage? I'll get food poisoning from this." She laughed mockingly. Her cruel words left me speechless, but she continued to insult me. "You're trying to make me sick with this food, aren't you? Haha. Going to such lengths just to harass me? You're truly wicked, mother-in-law. Ha ha ha." Her words, dripping with disdain, made my hands tremble with anger. Why do we have to endure this? How can Megan treat others so cruelly? Seeing Benny so worn out, why doesn't she feel any urge to help? Why does she dismiss our kindness? I had so much I wanted to say to Megan, but I couldn't find the right words. But I couldn't let her continue this way. Andy, sensing my feelings, reached for his plate.
"I've held my tongue until now, but I've reached my limit."
Andy's deep voice echoed in the living room. Andy is usually calm, but when he's angry, it's truly intimidating. It's been a long time since I've seen him this upset. His anger unabated, Andy continued.
I'm cutting ties with you. Leave now.
Andy yells at Megan. Even Megan seemed taken aback, her face turning pale. What? Father-in-law? How can you say that to your daughter-in-law? Do you enjoy this harassment? I never thought even father-in-law would stoop so low. She retorted, tears in her eyes. But no matter what Megan said, Andy's stance remained firm.
I don't care if you call it harassment. I can't see you as family anymore. Leave.
Hearing Andy's words, Megan finally understood. Fine, I'll leave. From now on, I won't have anything to do with you or mother-in-law. You'll regret this. With that, she packed her things and left. I asked Benny if he wanted to go after her, but he seemed resigned.
It doesn't matter.
He was engrossed in the meal before him, so we decided to let her go. Considering the potential for another confrontation if Benny went home, we decided to let him stay the night. Benny seemed relieved, not wanting to face Megan. That night, for the first time in a long while, we enjoyed some quality family time. We shared stories, grievances about Megan, and even slept in the living room, reminiscent of a camping trip. The tight fit of the comforter reminded me how much Benny had grown. But the peace was short-lived. The next morning, we were jolted awake by the doorbell. As expected, it was Megan. I looked around to see what was going on, and as expected, it was Megan who was ringing the doorbell. As Benny, Andy, and I discussed what to do, the door was pounded loudly. Mother-in-law, I know you're in there. Benny hasn't come home. He's here, isn't he? Let him out now. Megan's words struck fear in me. I felt that if we handed Benny over to her now, things would take a turn for the worse. So we decided to let Megan in and have a discussion. The moment the door opened, Megan stormed in, glaring at me. You think you can steal someone's husband? That's unbelievable. She shouted angrily, but her words didn't affect me anymore. Steal? That's a harsh way to put it. We simply offered him a place to stay because of the way you've been treating him. He made the choice, not me. Blaming me is misplaced, don't you think? Megan's face turned beet red. You're the worst, mother-in-law and father-in-law, for letting you behave this way. Stay away from us forever. Her words no longer held any weight. Both Andy and I were ready to cut ties with Megan. The atmosphere was tense, but Benny's words changed everything.
I can't continue with you. Let's get a divorce.
His statement stunned Megan, who had been red-faced with anger. A divorce? Seriously, you choose mother-in-law over me? Her tone shifted, and she looked at Benny with pleading eyes. Benny retorted,
A wife who neglects her duties and parties all the time versus my parents who've always been there for me. The choice is clear.
Megan, still not convinced, said, They're just manipulating you. Once they have you, they'll discard you too. Such baseless accusations. We never abandoned Benny. But Megan, desperate to paint us as villains, shouted hysterically, You're trying to take Benny from me. Do you hate me that much? At this point, it was unclear what could calm her down. Suddenly, Benny slapped Megan across the face.
Enough!
The room went silent. Megan, in shock, couldn't comprehend what had just happened.
You've not only been a burden to me, but also to my parents. Aren't you ashamed? I thought you'd come to your senses, but I was wrong.
Don't say such things. I love you. Please reconsider.
I've made up my mind. From today, we're strangers. Don't ever call yourself my wife again.
Megan looked defeated. No one reached out to her. She eventually left, realizing there was no point in arguing. For the next few days, Benny stayed with us. He began the divorce process, which was finalized recently. Megan was reluctant to sign the papers, so they had to get a lawyer. Benny had evidence of Megan's reckless spending, which helped him secure the divorce. He also sought compensation in court. Benny was forced to work for Megan and was showing signs of a lifestyle disease. Megan's parents paid the settlement. Now in debt to her parents, Megan works day and night to repay them. After the divorce, Benny continued living with us for a while. We wanted to give him a break, especially after all he'd been through. Now, Benny is back on his feet, working hard every day. Life might throw more challenges at him, but we'll always be his parents. We'll support him in every way we can.